Yeah. Here he's coming. He's connected in.
Hey, put it on your face, man. We want to see you.
Yeah, what you doing, man?
Come on, Angel.
He's probably in the bathroom.
There he is. Come on, boy.
Let me get better.
You got to go in the light.
You gotta get it some light. Come to the light, Angel.
Yeah,
Come
light
to the light.
Hey, your house got light in it yet? Oh, there it is.
Hold on. I'm coming to the light.
Coming to the light.
Without judgment.
That's right. Man, you looking good, boy.
Yeah.
You don't post a lot of stuff with you. I only see because you come in and out of the frame on social. So you come in and then somewhere all of a sudden I'm like, I don't see Angel in my feed no more. And I'll have to find you and you're not there. And then all of a sudden I'll find you again, So I have to
like keeping all my stuff on the low.
you. I have to stalk you.
Yeah. I keep all of it on low. Did they tell you I got a house?
No, man. That's congratulations.
Oh,
that's so good.
Yeah,
I saw you graduated too.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was just recent though, right?
Mm-mm.
No? Well, you just recently posted then.
You just probably found it.
Maybe. I was just stalking you. That's exactly right.
Yes. How do you get it to see everybody?
There should be something up kind of in your top right corner, like a gallery view. If you scroll up to the top, if you're on a computer, it should be like your gallery view and you can change your view full screen. Then you can see kind of everybody and then it'll kind of highlight the person that's talking typically, but I don't control their software. Oh, look, Chris is CJ. Here we go. Joining in now. We'll get this party started.
Oh, hey, Joe. I didn't see you there, man. Just now saw you, man. Hey, CJ, I didn't see you either.
Where's CJ?
No, my hair is down.
There he is. All right, CJ, what's up, brother?
And then I can swipe over.
Where are you at, man? Where are you at, CJ?
I'm in the gym parking lot.
Where? But are you in Tennessee? Or where are you at now?
I knew you.
Yeah, I'm in Tennessee now. I live in Tennessee.
Okay, I was thinking. So you didn't leave after you did MT. What school was that? MTU or?
Yeah, MTSU right here.
Yeah, there it is. The Raiders, baby. Come on. So when you went there, you decided to stay there, huh?
Well, I'm still finishing up.
Okay.
I haven't graduated just yet.
Okay.
I got 2 more classes in. I'm in one right now, and I got to take one in the fall, and then I got to take my aerospace certification test.
Yep.
And then I'll be done.
And you've played ball the whole time through school, right? I mean, you've had quite a journey, if I recall, of where you've been playing ball, right?
Yeah, this is my third college I've been at. The third college I played football at. I was injured in 2017, so I stopped playing in 2017.
Yeah.
So now, since 2017 till now, it's kind of just been, a journey of school.
Yeah.
Football with the program that I am, it's really kind of impossible to play football because they have classes during certain times. So
yeah,
pretty much all the classes that I wasn't able to take during football, I've been taking now.
Gotcha. Man, I'm glad you're getting through it though. You've only got a few classes left, and you stayed on the journey. You chased it down. So I've seen your perseverance has been pretty incredible, really.
Man, it's been a long journey. I'm just ready to be done now.
Yeah. And what a time to be done with school, right? And enter the workforce. Come on. We're in the middle of a pandemic and we've got this unrest. I mean, yeah, come on. It's a new world, right? So
yeah, I'm hoping it's gonna be a boom in some job hiring by the time I'm done.
I think so. I'm prayerful for it, hopeful for it. You and Hunter both now, you guys both played through college. So Hunter, you also played through school ball, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, Hunter's in this too? Oh, snap, man. Everybody
We're just missing Fred. Fred had to bail tonight. He just texted me, so it's no big deal. I'll talk to him later too about it. I know he's wore out and doing a lot of stuff. So
man, that's crazy. The whole gang back.
Got the whole gang back. I know. I'm gonna flash up a photo here because let me see if I can share. Let me see if I can share this screen. Let me see if I can share this screen here. It's gonna be on my desktop, so I gotta find something.
That's in that hotel room.
Yeah,
Right.
man. I know. I gotta find it. Hold on.
Breakfast of champions.
Yeah.
Man, that's living off them peanut butter and jellies and Pop Tarts. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to do it. I'll have to share it. It's trying to. All right, here. I'm thinking that's gonna
Oh, I see it.
do. Let's see if I can. I'm trying to. My son's making fun of me. He says, "You don't know how to share a screen yet, Dad?" I'm like,
I don't know how to do that either.
I'm like, no, I'm trying to figure all this out here. I should be better at this. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. There it is. You got it? Do you have it?
Yeah.
Can you see this?
Oh yeah, I see it.
Y'all remember that? Hunter's hair, man. He was surfing, baby.
JoJo though. Oh, beathead.
Man, CJ, that's like your pose, man. I got another photo with you in that exact pose.
You need to bring back the hat too.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, that was all of us there. Now let me see if I can stop sharing and we'll go back. There we go. So that was kind of pretty cool. I remember those days when we got the chance to meet. You know, what was interesting with me is, I was trying to, I tell people all the time, we sold our business, and then I was trying to play golf a ton, and I tell people Jesus kind of wrecked my golf game. And so I started trying to do stuff in the ministry and do different things. And Jason Windsor, you guys remember Jason, I'm sure it had a major impact on all your lives in one way or another. But, he said, hey, I need some help and volunteers, do this camp, this summer camp with the youth. And glad to volunteer and help. He said, just chaperone, and so I didn't know who I would be put together with. But I can remember feeling an instant connection with you guys, even on the bus ride down, which I was like, I'm going to fully immerse myself. I'm going to do the bus ride. I'm going to figure this out. But it was weird because, I got put in with you guys, and it was, let's see, was CJ, you're here, Angel, JoJo, Zarin, Hunter, and Fred. So 6. So then that would have been 5 that were of color, black, and just Hunter and me that were white. And if I remember, Ben would follow us around, right? Ben.
Ben Davis.
Yeah. So he'd follow us around some and hang out at the time. But I just remember, the best part, of course, about that youth camp was getting a chance to meet you guys, and honestly, the impact y'all had on my life has been huge. Watching you guys and talking with you guys, and of course, I know our phone calls there in the beginning were a lot more, and the text messages were a lot more. And then as life goes on, I know it's harder to keep in touch, but I still enjoyed every time I get to connect with you guys, whether it's a short message or a text or a phone call, whatever it is. I hear from some of you. I hear from more. Fred, I actually hear from usually the most. But Zarin, I know you hit me up. We've talked some, and it's been awesome to get that opportunity. The worst part of it, of course, was that hotel room. That hotel room was really bad. I just sold a business. I felt like I had a little bit of something. I'd like to stay somewhere better than where that was. But still, being with y'all was pretty cool. One of the things I want to talk about is kind of in the beginning, because this conversation has been stirring in my heart for quite some time, and I want to give you guys some floor space here. I told you we'll edit some of this down. With if everybody's in agreement, I'd like to post this because I think it's an important conversation. But we'll edit it down. We'll give you 100% transparency over all that process. But one of the things I would like to do is talk about really was how this has been bubbling in my heart. How this has been bubbling up for quite some time. But I think when I saw the Ahmaud Arbery situation, it really jumped out at me. That video was heartbreaking. And I think what really got me the most, for me at least, was this idea that, I know I have half of my social media friends out there will maybe view this and be upset with things that go on in this conversation. And half of them will be heartbroken and want to have empathy and sympathize and understand. But I saw that in the Ahmaud Arbery. I saw some of my friends on social media would have these different excuses, like here's a video of this kid being stopped in a park, or here's this video of this kid being, he was going in the house, he's running in the house and he should have been in the house and should have been there. He was. So I had all these excuses. And so I started to actually write an article, and I was going to write something, and I was going to talk about some of our times together. And I just kind of put pause on it. And then George Floyd came together, and I was like, I don't know that my words will be any good. And I thought, if we could get on the phone and talk about some of these things and how some of these things impacted you, because when I thought about Ahmaud Arbery, I thought about you guys instantly. And I'm well enough even thinking about it now. And I thought about the times that when my wife and I were early married, and we would run through the neighborhoods in Henry County, and I would run through every open construction house that there is, because we wanted to see the details and what people were doing and how things were, and dream even. Maybe we could afford this one day. Maybe we could do this one day. But never did I ever think somebody would ever come and say something to me about walking into a construction home. And it reminded me about Angel. I remember going into a store when we were in Daytona, and I think you guys went in first, and we walked in the store, and I remember walking up towards you, and I was like, dude, this lady's following us. She's like creeping around the aisles. I feel the eyes on us. And I remember you may not remember this, but you said, hey, as long as you hang around us, you'll get used to it.
I actually remember that. I do.
But that's something that you've been, you've elaborate a little bit on that, Angel. Have you felt like that, or any of you? Have you felt, you guys grew up. When was the first time you maybe noticed that? Is it, and I'm sure it still goes on. How's that? Just elaborate on that thought.
First thought that came to me was when I remember, it was when I was little, and my neighbor, she was white, and her dad and mom was white. They're all white. And we became friends, me and Rachel. We became friends, and then her dad basically told me to stop coming over because I was black. And he was just like, and that's what it was for me.
How old were you? Kind of thereabout.
Like second grade.
Unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And that was in Georgia?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I didn't know if you were somewhere prior to that.
Mm-mm.
Man.
That was the first time.
And anybody else, do you remember those moments that, because there were a couple of times when I was in Daytona. I can remember we went and ate somewhere, and we go to eat, and some of y'all might have been just half of you. I think Hunter was hanging around he had a girl then that I think he wanted to be around. Well, look, we're talking about time period, right? We're just talking about time period. But we went to a restaurant one time, and I realized the service was different too. Until I said, "Hey, by the way, just bring me the bill." I don't know you guys again, but I remember you guys. There was no phasing. There wasn't. It wasn't like you. It was just that's as you're used to.
I have something to say about that. So I've been with my girlfriend now for some time now, and she's white, and we were having a conversation. Of course, this situation, everything going on in life has sparked some pretty serious conversations, And I had a conversation about her, and she said to me that one day that she didn't know that this was such a hurtful feeling to me, that all this, because I've gotten emotional around her about all of it that's been going on. And what I told her was that when you live your whole entire life like this, it's wrong, but it becomes normal. So when things happen, you don't even think twice about it. So like I can remember so many experiences where I have been profiled because of the way I look.
Yeah.
But I don't dwell on it anymore because it's almost like to be a successful black man in this world, you can't continue to dwell on those things because you have to look for it as a positive thing. So a situation like this, that's going on in the world, kind of like, for me, I was just sitting in my room and I was getting emotional about the situation that was going on, and it made me start thinking about everything that's happening in my life. You know, to the point of where I can remember the first time that I've been called the N-word. Like everything that has gone on in my life, like, was playing out, and I just broke down in tears because I realized that so much stuff has happened that I just realized it's just normal, that I thought was normal, but it was just the way it had to be.
You know, CJ, you've always had a kind of this wisdom about you, even at a young age. You always had this thinking, thought. You're really intuitive and thought through the process. I can see that even at a young age. So it's really interesting how deep you've gone through this and looked at it, that perspective. One thing that stuck out that you just said is you remember the time you were called the N-word. I mean, you all have been, and some of these I know the answer. We've had these discussions, but you've all been called the N-word to your face.
Yeah, on my story, that's what I was talking about. That's what her dad called me.
And that's at a young age.
Yeah, and I asked my mom what that was, and then she had to explain
I had
it to
to go
me.
ask my mom what that word meant the first time that I was called.
I've witnessed it with a couple of these guys.
You have.
Know, we played sports and
Yeah.
oh yeah, I mean Aaron.
Oh, football.
No football. Yeah, bro. You hear it all the time. Yeah.
But is it the other side? Is it peers? Do you hear it from peers, or do you hear it from other side, or is it both?
It's the other side normally.
The other side, typically.
And like there's times too where it's like, I know me and Jolin, we took like a vacation with our family maybe like 2 years ago, but we were in a whole different country. You know, we were in Canada, and we're just, you know, we go on vacation, we take our skateboards with us, and we check out the city and stuff like that. But we're walking downtown just looking for a place to eat, and people from a different country, not even from Canada, not even from the US, but like maybe like Middle Eastern or something, and they were trying to call out to us, and they were like, hey, calling us the N, we're like, hey, come here, like, and we looked at each other and we were just like, that's not my name. Like,
so that you're saying another country, just a few years ago.
Right. It was, the guys were maybe like Middle Eastern or something, but just like calling us out. And I'm just like, dang, like even here, like number one, you don't know me, you don't know who I am, and you're going to reference me like that. Maybe if you could have said anything, you could have said, hey guys, can you come here for a second, or whatever you needed. So like, that's the first thing that you say. Number one, it's already disrespectful, but two, like, you don't know who I am. Like,
that's how they profile you.
Right.
That's nice.
That makes me think about, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, sir. Were you still talking?
I was just going to say, it's like, kind of like what CJ was saying, like you almost get numb to it, but then there's times where like you haven't heard it in a while, and then when you do hear it again, it's just like, dang, like we're still there. Like it's 2020, but
we're still there. And we're still there. Oh my gosh! I mean, you guys, JoJo, I mean, obviously you spoke about experience. You were with him, but I mean, sure, you've had the same.
Yeah, I was definitely going to reference that moment. Zarin, I hear the guy. We're walking down. We're trying to get something to eat, and I hear him say it. And Zarin just looked at me. He's like, "Yo, let's go mess this guy up. Let's go get him." Like, Zarin, it's not even that deep. Like, honestly, it didn't faze me because we know it's hard times growing up like that, but I was just keep going. I didn't hear anything. Let's just keep moving. But at a different time point, maybe if we were a little bit younger, maybe we would have done something, but luckily we didn't at that time.
Well, it's just, again, it just amazes me that somebody would just think that it's okay to even say that to you walking down the road. I mean, I can't tell you that there's the instances that I've had anybody say something to me negative just because, I was wearing something that they didn't like. They stick out in my head because there's probably one or two of them, maybe three in my entire life, and you're talking again, that what CJ said, and I heard some of you others say this Numbness, because there's no, I don't want to put words in your mouth. It sounds like there's just no number of times that you couldn't come up with an exact number of times that people have either followed you around or said something like that to you, and just because of the color of your skin.
Oh, it's countless amounts of times. It's to the point where it becomes kind of a norm. Like, it's to the point where I remember, especially since I played football at countless amounts of places, that when I toured a school and when I was on my process of going to schools and touring, the first thing that I was doing was trying to kind of look at what the ratio was, because I didn't want to be somewhere and be unwanted.
Right.
And that was always a fear of mine, and it's kind of one of things where there isn't no sympathy for the people towards us. Like, they don't care about our feelings when it comes to saying these things.
No, that's obvious.
There's a time in my life where it sticks out to me, one of the more than any of them, is because I was a really young kid, and I remember my dad had finally got a really good job, and we had moved from Liberty City, Miami, to where I had never heard any type of racism before, and moved to Georgia. And I remember the kids would always question me because they said that their parents used to say that my father sold drugs because we were in this neighborhood with them. They said that he had to be a drug dealer.
Oh my word. Oh my word.
I, at that time, didn't know. It was always that I would have to ask my parents what something meant, because at that point I'm at a age of innocence where I don't even understand what these are, what these words and these references are. And then I remember some things just stick in my head to where I can't get them out. And there's one instance where I remember I am outside by myself playing basketball, and these two kids across the street that were way older, I was probably in middle school at this time, they were in high school, came into my yard, took my ball, pushed me down, and said, "It's my ball now," called me the Nword, and walked away with my ball. I went into my house and told my mom about it. My mom then goes on their door, knocks on their door. Their mom doesn't see a problem with it and shuts the door in my mom's face. So at this point, my mom doesn't know what to do because, she doesn't want to do anything wrong, and I'm hurt. So she calls the police and tells them that they have stolen my ball and they won't give it back. The police comes and says that they can't do nothing about it because it's just a ball. There's no proof. And that was the end of that story. So then my mom just told me that sometimes things like that just happen. So
so I'm sorry. Go ahead, CJ. I didn't want to jump you.
I was just saying that sometimes you understand that those are things you just almost have to live with.
And that's kind of the culture, right? It seems like what I'm hearing is that just swallow it, and you kind of get numb and deal with it and move on. And look, you guys are examples of people that have made incredibly great choices in extremely hard situations. And you all are college educated and have incredible futures. And Hunter, I know I'm glad you're a part of this conversation because you've seen this coming up with them. You talked a little bit about that, but that you've heard it in football, but did you feel it when I was sharing with you how I walked in the store with Angel and when we were all together or we're at restaurants? And did you feel it when you were coming up, when you were with your black friends?
My whole life, I grew up in Clayton County. I've been around nothing but, mainly black people. Growing up in schools, I was usually like one of the only white kids. So this is, kind of new to me because like I'm like so used to it, like, and then coming to somewhere like Columbia, Kentucky, and it's hard to like listen to the people around here and be like, what they have to say, and oh, the black lives don't matter, because like that's all I know, then moving from Jonesboro High School to community Christian, like, it was different for me.
That was a shock for you too, right?
Like the only white kid, the only white kid at Jonesboro. Like I was the only white kid in my class to go into like a more mixed,
and you're one of the tallest.
Which brings an interesting point, because I might stand corrected. You guys might have corrected me, but if I'm not wrong, I think Hunter was the only one that played basketball for this team, right? Out of all you guys, if we're going to stereotype folks, I mean, Hunter was the only one, right?
I was the baller. I still got a picture of Aaron and JoJo picking me up. You remember that? Yeah.
So I know you guys have gone through that. It's interesting. You said something there, Hunter, and I kind of got off topic a little bit, but you said something that I thought was interesting, because I think where you're saying you're surrounded, I feel it too. Sometimes where I'm surrounded, I've tried to find and seek out diversity, but it doesn't always happen. And where you live, it's not always there. But I have a different eclectic group of friends, and I've heard things like all lives matter, why, this sort of thing. But, that just really doesn't sit well with me.
No, not at all.
The story of the 99, right? The biblical story of Jesus left the one to go after, right? He left the 99 to go after the one. And I mean, right now our black family is hurting, right? And that's the one. Like black lives have to matter, right? And if black lives don't matter, how do all lives matter, right?
Like, don't get me wrong, all lives do matter in the grand scheme of things, but we have it made compared to the black lives. Like,
sure.
We don't have to walk down the streets and worry about a cop coming up on us and pulling a gun. Like that's just, that's not something we have to worry about.
Right.
But in this day and age, black lives matter 100%. Like the struggles they go with on a daily basis. I mean, to me, racism isn't any worse than it's ever been. It's just being filmed now. Like, it's being caught on camera to where you have to do something about it. I mean, they catch all these cops killing black guys and black women, and they're having to do something about it. You can't not do anything, and it makes you look bad, or your police department, So I think, getting it on film, at first I was like, man, why are they filming this? Like, why aren't they doing anything? But then you realize, like, that's about the only way you can get something to be done or to be heard about it, So it's crazy. It's crazy world we live in.
So,
it's crazy times.
It is.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. So you, Angel and CJ and JoJo and Zarin, you guys. I mean, when you hear all lives matter and black lives matter, I mean, from talking to you guys and hearing, I mean, that's not the point isn't that you don't believe all lives matter. Of course you believe that, but black lives matter. I mean, when you hear that, what comes out of it? I mean, when you hear people say all lives matter, I mean, how does that feel when you hear it?
When I hear somebody say all lives matter, all I hear is that they're not paying attention to what we're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's understood that all lives matter, and we get that. But the whole point of us saying that Black Lives Matter is trying to bring a fact that the system and the way the world is moving nowadays, we're trying to bring light to how the system is trying to destroy our people. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like a mockery. It's almost like a mockery when people say all lives matter, because we're saying Black Lives Matter for a point. We're trying to say that the system is the system is created to keep us down at the bottom.
Right.
For a black man in America to be great and to do great things for himself, for his family, for his future, for his community, he has to work 10 times harder than his white counterpart. 10 times harder. And not just that, but you can't fail.
Right.
Like,
you can't have an attitude to a teacher, right? You can't put off an image to a teacher.
Can't make one mistake.
One mistake. I remember one time my dad, like, and Joel remember this too. My dad told me one time, I don't know why this stuck in my head, but we had ordered pizza one time at the house, and pizza, they deliver. You're supposed to give them a tip and whatnot, right? So they came, they brought the pizza, and we took the pizza. And black people always joke around and be like, black people don't tip, and say stuff like that. We just trying to be funny, but I paid for the pizza, and I did not tip the man because I thought my dad wanted his money. He wanted his money back. When I came back inside and gave my dad the change, he's like, "Where's that?" And I was like, "Here's the rest of your money." He's like, "You're supposed to give him a tip, man. That's another strike against black people." And I saw that, and I chuckled a little bit. I was like, "Oh, you're just being funny," but nah, he was serious. He was like, "That's making us look bad because." Now they think anytime they go up to a black house, they're not going to get tipped.
Right. Right.
All that perception.
Like you're having to represent your entire culture, your entire people.
Everything. Whether we're walking down the street, whether we're going to go shop, whether we're going to the movies, we're always representing black people at all times. All time.
Always. What do you guys, what Zarin just said, JoJo, CJ, Angel?
Yeah, he hit the nail on the head right there. That's all, like, literally every time you step out the house, we're black, we're colored. Every time you step out, we're basically showing how black people are taught, lived, how we're raised by our parents, all that stuff. So, it is difficult sometimes when you do go out and you see other, black people that are somewhat a bad influence, sagging their pants, smoking weed, drugs, all this other stuff. And there's other black people that aren't raised or lived that way, and they're brought up proper, that even that proper kid that is brought up, raised, a white person can look at him the same way as a drug dealer or a person who's sagging his pants. It matters. Like, you see one negative thing from a black person, they're going to see it on a good black person.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
I think something that sticks out to me about that is, so my mom always raised me that no matter what, to never go outside with a shirt off. I wasn't allowed to go outside with my do-rag on. I wasn't allowed to wear a wife beater anywhere because of the image that it showed. Like, she always made sure that I was clean cut because I had to look presentable always because of the image. And I think it's things like that, like, as any of us can say that we were raised with our mother telling us things that we had to do to uphold an image of being. And I think that sticks out a lot because I remember as a kid, I wanted dreads really bad. Like, that was something that a hairstyle that I always liked and I wanted. But my dad never allowed me to have it because he said that hairstyle could almost make people think of me in a certain type of way just because of that hairstyle.
So you brought up a point. You said you all had this talk, and I know I've talked to some of you about this. But you said about this talk. Some of it is the idea that you've got to uphold your culture. In other words, you're speaking for your entire culture every time you go outside. But then another one, I've talked to you guys about this before, but let me see if any of this hits for you. I found this list, and I feel like some of you have told me you've had a talk. Your parents, at some point, tell me a little bit. I'm going to read you this list, but I want to hear the talk you had, because I'm guarantee you, Hunter and I never went through a talk like this, but somebody posted this and I thought it was really interesting. I don't know this person personally, but it might've been an article I read, but they said that their mother would tell him when he was younger. It was, at a young age, his mother told him to don't put his hands in his pockets, don't put his hoodie on, don't be outside with no shirt on, which you just said. Check in with your people. It don't even matter if you're down the street. Don't be out too late. Don't touch anything you're not buying. Never leave the store without a receipt or a bag, even if it's just a pack of gum. Never make it look like there's an altercation between you and someone else. Never leave the house without your ID. Don't drive with a wife beater on. Don't drive with a do-rag on. Don't go out in public with neither. Don't ride with the music too loud. Don't stare at a Caucasian woman. And if a cop stops you randomly, just question. Don't talk back. Just compromise. That's a pretty exhaustive list. But does that I assume I'm seeing your face, that resonates with the talk? Because I didn't have a talk like that. I'm just reading about this talk. I didn't have a talk like this.
Well, that sounds just about normal. I'm just like, goodness. I was like, this all sounds normal. It's okay.
Everything on that list is a talk that I've had more than one time.
And I'm laughing at your response, not that you've had to have that talk, of course, because it just breaks my heart just when this information, every time I've talked to you about these things and had these things told to me.
I got that talk a lot when I went to CCS.
Did you? From your mom? Would that be your mom? Would that be your mom?
The craziest thing is, I think that I've had that talk with Angel too before. Like, I think we
are.
Yes, for Angel.
We've had to remind each other about that. And like a big story that
because Hunter, it was like the roles were flipped. Because at Jonesboro, Hunter was the only white dude. And
right.
When we went to CCS, I was like, I'm the only black dude.
Right.
Well, it's funny that you bring this up because I actually have seen this list or something sort of like it.
Yeah.
I talked to my buddy about it last week. Like we talk all the time, and he's an African American, so we talked about this last week. Like we were going over a list, and I sent it to him, and he called me. He's like, "Man, you don't understand. Look, I've had this talk so many times." And his mom's white, his dad's black, and he's had this talk so many times with his dad. It's just crazy to hear you talk about it, honestly, because we were just talking about it last week. So,
what age did you start having that talk? One, I can't remember who it was. Two questions. What age do any of you remember that talk? I mean, it sounds like it was early and often. And then the other one I had, and I can't remember who it was. One of you guys was telling me that part of the talk too was the police kind of talk. Right? It wasn't about when you got stopped or if you got stopped or not. I'm sorry. It wasn't about if you got stopped. It was about when you got stopped. Like when you get approached by police, because it will happen. This is how you need to behave, which again, not something I've ever had a talk with. And my son, by the way, just started driving. He's 16 now, believe that or not, because when we first met, he was super young, but he started driving. I did not have this talk with him at all. It didn't happen. Coincidentally enough, I actually have now had this talk with him. I was like, you know what? I don't know. They're getting a little rowdy out there. But you guys tell me about that. I mean, that particular talk, and then maybe what age that was at.
I think we also had this talk when we were in Daytona. I remember one of the nights we were all in the room and we were talking about a time when me, Joel, and CJ had got pulled over by the cops. And
was I in the back seat on that one?
Yeah, in the back seat.
Me and you were in the back seat. Yeah.
And Joel
I was like, I'm his cousin.
Yeah. And the cop that pulled us over was like super disrespectful. And it's like those times when you get, number one, if you're black and you're driving, you get pulled over, you're already on edge. Like our parents have taught us, you get pulled over, get your license out, put it on your pocket, get your registration, put everything out in plain sight, and just put your hands where you can see them so they're not going to trip. But when they pull up to the window, it nowadays it doesn't even matter, because even when they come up to the window, they still feel threatened of some sort. And you can hear it in their voice. And it's like, you pulled me over. Why should you feel threatened? I'm trying to figure out why I got pulled over.
Yeah.
and they feel as if they need to put their hand on their gun or whatever they got to do to make you feel even more uncomfortable when you're already uncomfortable because they pulled you over for something that you may have not done or did, and whatever. But I know CJ and Joel can probably speak more on that situation too.
Is it because they get pulled over more?
Zarin, on that same stop where Jolin got pulled over, I got pulled over in my truck, and it was a white cop. And I was just making the regular turn like how y'all were. And then he compared what I did to murder. And I was like, what? I was like, how you get me turning to murder?
Right.
And that's exactly what they do on a regular basis. They take a stop and think they're about to kill somebody already.
Or but do you have that stop ever gone? Again, some of this I may know. And by the way, if we decide to post this, one thing I want to make clear too is that, look, we don't all have the answers either right here. And you guys are speaking from experiences. And also, if I say something that is offensive to you guys, obviously let me know. I'm trying to learn too. I want to figure out how we can make this world better. So if I say, if I'm laughing in a situation, I want y'all know me well enough, but if we do post this and people see that, I want them to understand too, if there's laughter going on, is because I see you guys as, we're family, and I'm laughing at more Angel's mannerisms or Zarin's mannerisms or the inside jokes we have together and that we've developed, but it's not certainly about this situation because it's terrible. But back on this though, has that stop ever been, because Angel, you just said they make it into something worse. Again, if I get pulled over, it's usually, and I'll tell you a quick story. I got pulled over literally the other day, like 2 days ago or a day ago, whatever it was. My kids were in the car. My wife's in the car. I got pulled over because there's some construction zone, wacky construction zone. I was in an area I didn't know, and I didn't even see the construction zone sign. I saw the new one that said 40 miles an hour. So I was probably doing like 45 or something like that. But evidently I was in one that was a 25 mile an hour zone. The police officer came up to me. He got my license. I told him I'm not familiar with this area. It was in an area that we were traveling for vacation, and I didn't know the area, and I got lost. And so I just told him that. And I didn't do anything. The 9-point system that Zarin has to go through, and that Angel and that you guys and your brothers and JoJo and CJ that y'all have to go through. I didn't do any of that. I reached in my pocket when he came in. I pulled out my stuff. I handed him everything. There's no thought process in this. And he let me go, by the way, with a warning. He didn't give me a ticket. In fact, I've been pulled over twice in the last 10 years, and both times I got a warning for it. But it was, some innocuous thing. One of them a paper warning, and one of them nothing. And
you're such a likable guy. Though.
I don't know. Hey, look, I got long hair and tats. So, they ought to have some sort of stereotype. But you said that they want to put something on it. Have you guys ever felt that whatever the innocuous stop initially was, the window tint or, speeding or bad turn, has it ever, he said it was like murder, but have they ever said like, oh, I smell something in here. I want to search it. Like almost like they're trying to escalate the charges.
I have a situation that Zarin will remember when we were at Rhymes and we were parked over there. So me and Zarin both drive, I guess what you would call nice cars. Zarin had a really nice car, and I had a truck. And the police say they got a call that we were doing something wrong. I don't even remember what it was that they said that we had did. But all we were at was at actually our PE coach's house. We were at our PE coach's house. And so we were parked. The best way to explain it was across the street, there was a daycare from where he lived. Yeah, and we were parked there, and it was on a day when the daycare was closed. But people said that we were doing some weird activities. And it was multiple cop cars that came and blocked me and Zarin's cars in, came out and started aggressively questioning us without us even saying anything. So at this point, they told us to both get out of our cars. So me and Zarin were both separate, so I don't know what the police were saying to Zarin at that time, but I remember that they did not believe that my vehicle was my vehicle because it was a truck and that it was listed.
Oh, man.
Then they proceeded to search my vehicle because they felt like they were going to find something.
But they probably had no problem. It doesn't sound like there was any probable cause there either.
No, really. Me and Darren were at that point when the cops came. We're only walking to our vehicles. We were walking to our vehicles, and they stopped us. So.
And when you say PE coach, by the way, you mean high school, right? We're talking about your high school. We're not talking about you even being older or young. We're talking high school age, the educator from a Christian school, PE Christian school that you've gone. I mean, again, that's what we're talking about here.
I remember that they said they asked him. They were like, they told CJ something like, "You don't look like you can afford a truck like this," or something.
Yeah, and that I wouldn't drive that type of truck. And it really kind of bothered me because that was my father's truck that he gave to me. So I didn't think that it was wrong for me to have a truck.
Of course not.
You know, and that's another thing. Like being raised, as soon as I was able to start driving, my parents gave me a rule that as soon as I see cop lights behind me and that I get pulled over, I have to call them. That's the first thing I have to do, and I have to put the phone on speaker so that no matter what, my parents hear what's going on.
Wow.
So, that's amazing. Like every single time I'm around a cop, I do have a fear, and it's sad to say it, but there's times where I pray and hope that the cop pulling me over is an African American because then I don't feel as threatened, you know?
Yeah.
And like there's so many countless stories that me and my friend one time when I was in college, it was nighttime and we didn't have any food in our dorms. And so there's a Walmart down the road. So we walked to Walmart and it was cold this night and I had a hoodie and I put my hood on top of my head and my friend, whose name was John, he hit me and said, "What are you doing? Take your hood off. Are you trying to get a shot?"
Wow.
Word for word what he said. And I said, "Oh my God, man, I forgot." And that's the thing that I feel like all of us have experienced. We get too comfortable sometimes and we let our guards down. Right. And we always have to stay alert. We always have to make sure that we're not doing something that anybody can take in the wrong way.
Right. Because
what may not seem wrong to us seems wrong to a lot of other people.
You know, it's and I first off, I want to say too, I know you guys' hearts, and I know where your hearts are, and you know, when we're talking about the police and policing, I know you guys, just like all lives matter. You know, we're talking about Black Lives Matter. First off, I know you guys know that there are certainly people that good police officers that want to do the right things and want to come from it honestly, but that we're talking about an issue. We're not, and it's going on and continues to go on. So I just want to kind of make it clear. But the fear that you're talking about, it's really interesting. I just heard a message from Andy Stanley, who's mega church pastor in Atlanta. Is actually, that's what my family watches him online because we've had a hard time finding comfortable places that we can go to church sometimes because I've got too many people of color and too many people of different sexualities and different choices that I love dearly, and I just don't feel sometimes really good in all the different walls, which I want to ask y'all about church in a little bit too. But I read this, or I saw this message I think it's called This Human Race, which I would tell you, if you find on YouTube, Google This Human Race or Andy Stanley, This Human Race. It's a 30-minute talk he had this past Sunday. I thought he did a very good job. But he talks about that we've got to get messy. We've got to ask these questions. We've got to get messy. That I may ask questions again that may come off poorly. That's never my intent. I said that earlier. But I've got to learn and I've got to figure out. And if we don't get in it, and I'm so glad that Hunter's on the line too, and interjecting and obviously just listening, because if we don't get involved in the messiness of this, nothing's ever going to get solved. It's almost not good enough to be non-racist. We have to be anti-racist. That he made the equation. And again, you have to listen to me. He made this metaphor equation of just kind of like, if you're walking down the street, you don't look at somebody abusing a child and say, well, I'm non-bullying. No, you're anti-bullying. You're going to stop them from abusing a child, right?
Mm-hmm.
So non-racist is almost like you're sitting on the sideline, like you're compliant. But he talked about this thing of fear that CJ mentions, is that this fear of the police. And look, we can talk about facts and he talked about that facts, people can present you with facts. Like, there's more police that don't kill people, right, than do. Maybe that's a fact. I don't know. Or there's more crime by this person. There's more crime by that person. Why aren't we talking about this? But facts don't get rid of fear. And he uses this example of that people have a fear of flying. It was really an incredible example. He said people have a fear of flying. Well, the facts state that flying is safer than driving, but that doesn't take away the fear of flying. What takes away a fear of flying or begins to diminish it is when people start flying and they fly more. So if you want to take the fear, he was saying that because he was doing in reference that fear of, so a lot of times white people have a fear of black people, especially black men. You guys may feel that sometimes when you're walking in places. But the only way to take away that fear is to engage and experience a black family and a black man and a black, how do I have a relationship? How can I break bread with you? How can I talk with you? How can I pray with you? How can I do things with you? Because then that experience becomes better. And so the only way to really erase that is that we have to have these messy conversations to break down the fear of that. So I thought that was pretty interesting, but that police part of fear, how you tighten up when a police officer comes around is very unique, because we always grew up, and Hunter, I don't know if you felt that way, but I always grew up where the police are protect and serve. I always felt when police presence around, I'm like, I feel safe here. But that's quite the opposite, is what I'm hearing from you guys.
For the most part, honestly, I never started noticing the whole police brutality and stuff till I got to college. My buddy, he was my roommate through most of the time at college, and his mom would make him film every time he got pulled over.
Oh, wow.
Just that he'd have it.
It's a lot like CJ's. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was an instance where the cop pulled him over, and it was a speed limit was 55, and the cop pulled him over and said he was going 67, but he had his cruise control set on 62, and he had it on video. And he went to court and fought it, and he got out of it. Yep, made that big story. He's going 7 over, which, I mean, it's speeding, but, who doesn't go 7 over? And who gives the ticket out for going 7 over,
Right.
But he got out of it. But, yeah, she makes him film every time he gets pulled over.
When you guys hear the idea, I know this is going to be a tough question, so, if we want to pass, you can say pass. But when you guys hear the word defund the police, that's a big thing right now. Defund the police, and there's talk like Minneapolis, they're talking about defund the police. I mean, now I will tell you, when I read these articles, nobody's, again, and this is where we've got to come to an understanding, right? I mean, we know all lives matter. We're talking about Black lives, right? We know that there's good police, but we're talking about an issue. Defund the police isn't that you want to have an unsafe community. Nobody says, we want to defund the police because we don't want law and order anymore, right? I mean, that's not. But what does that mean? Defund, is it breaking down? I mean, what are you hearing when you hear defund the police? I mean, or do you want to take a pass on it?
I mean, are you saying that you want to make the police broke when they already broke?
Well, that's what I'm hearing, the message, and it's coming out. I don't know if you're seeing that.
I never heard it.
You haven't heard it? Okay. Have you guys heard it?
I read that article, actually. It was either this morning or yesterday. And when I first heard that, I didn't really know what to feel about it. So when I first heard it, I thought, like a lot of things going on right now, wow, like it's some action. Just the fact that it's some type of action to help in some way. Whether it is a right or wrong action, it's just an action of somebody showing effort. And for me, I appreciate that. Like this whole thing, just seeing the words Black Lives Matter, I mean, matters is not asking that much. Matter is literally just the lowest that you can ask for. We just want to matter. So when I see something like that, it makes me feel good. But at the same time, like I have people that are close to me that are officers that I know are good people. And to this day, they still struggle with just that job, and they put their life on the line. So I understand the other side of it too, for the ones that are good and are trying to do right,
Sure.
and are actually doing and upholding their commitment to trying to make the community safe.
Right.
So if defunding the police department is the right or wrong thing, I don't really have the answer to that. I feel like, if anything, there just needs to be a more strict guideline that they go by for who they allow to be in a uniform.
Exactly.
Like, I think of it like the military. You have to go through so much to wear that uniform.
Right.
And I'm not saying that police don't go through a lot, but I'm pretty sure that in the military, they go through a lot more. And at the same time, they're still doing the same thing, which is protecting the people of this country. They're just protecting a state. They're protecting every area they're in. So I feel like that should be a longer process to truly see who is committed to doing the right thing.
That's a good point. Yeah, that was my thought. Is because I don't hear when I'm reading that, I don't. If I dive into the what do you call it, clickbait or whatever that says defund the police, initially it's like, what? You just want chaos. But that's not actually at all what I'm hearing when I read the article, or now even what you're saying, CJ. It's just that there is a broken system and we need to fix it. But we certainly, you don't think that it's not. We need order, right? And we've got to have. You're not advocating chaos.
I think that to add with CJ is when he brought up the military, it takes a certain person to want to be in the military to begin with, but over the years of being in the military, years and years past, you have to keep perfecting your craft. And what I want to know is, as a police officer, you go through the academy. Over the years past, do they still work on their craft? Do they still, or are they
continuing education sort of deal?
Yeah, lackadaisical, and to where things just come numb, or things just come like, oh, that's not as important anymore. Do they continue to educate their officers over the years?
Yeah, I think another thing to piggyback off Hunter and CJ is like, I know this is a recording and everything, but I mean, I'm going into the military myself. I'm contracted. I've already signed on the line. So this time next year, I'm going to be active duty. But for me to get to this process, I've had to do a lot just in ROTC, and just to get to that point to be part of active duty. And I'm not saying anything against police officers, but I agree that the process that they go to is, I don't think it's as stringent or strict as it should be, because you'll have people that can get through, and some may not be okay in the head. Some might have problems when they were growing up, and now they have an authority given to them by the Constitution, and they can use that however they want to.
Exactly.
And that's when we have these situations where we have now, where they're abusing that power that's given to them. So, but and I'm not saying all cops are like that, because I've met cops that were good, but I'm just saying that there's just cases, there's counties, there's states that we know that we just have to be careful in. And that's if we know that we have to be careful in them, then we know there's something wrong right there.
I've never had a county or state that I've tried to avoid, because in fact I'm trying to put on my bucket list all 50, so I've never thought of that. Zarin, I don't know if I mentioned, I had a text message with you the other day about how the DOD, can I mention that? Is that okay for me to say, or would you rather me not? Which is a positive thing, but I cannot. So
go ahead, you're fine.
So, but because I think I'm actually quite proud of you, but I got a text message the other day. I actually had a phone call and a text message that said that there was this lady in Washington or Virginia, this lawyer, that wanted me to talk to her about somebody that I may know, and she's with the Department of Defense. And I'm thinking, like, what did I do? You know, and there's about 3 or 4 people that came up in my head that like, he might be getting arrested, you know, but I was thinking like major, like white collar crimes. I'm like, he's going to jail, you know, so, like real shady guy, you know, but, it ended up, I called the lady back to figure out what was going on. She says, well, I want to talk about Zarin and because I'm giving him a security clearance that I need. And you came up on his reference page. And of course I'm honored that you would put my name down, but, you know, and of course I gave Zarin a glowing recommendation. In fact, you're the kind of person that I would want entrusted with our country's secrets, by the way. So whatever they are, you are the guy I want entrusted. You're the guy I want watching my back. And man, I just thank you for the amount of time you've put through there. But you're right. I mean, we had somebody, a lawyer with the Department of Defense, that reached out to me to get a background check to make sure that this guy's going into protecting our country and having these secrets. And they're doing a very lengthy search. And I don't know what goes on, by the way. I don't know what goes on in the local police force areas. But and at bigger police force areas, they may be more backgrounds that happen. I don't know. But certainly in smaller, like Angel said, you said you want to defund them even more than they already are, right? So
Yeah.
they in smaller areas where they're defunded more, they may do less of a check on an officer. You know, are you breathing? Yeah, great.
I was thinking more they should fund them more for
Right.
programs, as in like re-education and everything,
Sure.
because
Yeah.
they're so poorly funded.
Right. Well,
Actually
and that's
make
a
them go to
that's a good thought.
classes about it.
That's a good thought process there too. Or what do you think about like the body cams? More body cams? I don't know.
I don't
I
think
don't
body
think,
cams are gonna-
yeah.
They're not doing it. That's a
The
non-starter.
guy want to break the camera. He wants
Yeah.
to break the camera.
or covers it, you know.
Yeah.
Off.
I
They
never
would
thought of
get
that.
they would get the full truth of a body cam if they really wanted to. Like I feel like we never see videos of body cams.
And
of
that's
what
why
actually went on.
it's so important. Hunter, you mentioned that. It's
Yeah.
because you said something that earlier that it's just being filmed now. And so people are becoming more proactive in filming. And it's not just this. Did any of you see that there's a video of a lady, a white lady, I guess, in a New York park where this black guy was bird watching and she had the dog.
Yeah.
You see that? And
Yeah.
she accused him of.
She made it look like she was getting attacked over the phone.
She was calling the police and saying he was attacking her, and he's recording it. And like,
Yeah.
he did no such thing. You know, so you're right. It's only the community activism then, I guess, so the body cams aren't really, not trusting that process.
I think it comes back to like, you know, if we put more body cams on them, that doesn't really solve the problem because we're filming it on the outside, and it's obvious it's obvious that it's a system failure. Like it's a failure on their part to weed out who is really passionate about serving and protecting their community as a cop. You got people that want that power and want that authority, and they just want to use it for abuse, regardless if they're a cop, regardless if they're whatever their job is, they're just abusive of power and authority. And now they have a position where they can use that. And I think that's a fault in the system and the selection of who they're putting in positions.
Right. You know, kind of not to move too much further from this, but kind of speaking of the criminal justice system, you know, a little bit too, because we talked about the police force, but and listen, guys, I know I've set aside as much time as we need. And again, I'm going to edit this and try to get it down to where if we are going to place it out online, we'll keep it, try to get it down to where people won't fall asleep. Although I think we're talking about some pretty interesting stuff. But talking about the criminal justice system, I mean, one thing that was interesting that I started thinking about in this process, you know, I had an opportunity we took our kids, we were over the winter, we took our kids and saw an incredible movie. I didn't even know it. I didn't even see that it was out. But there was a guy named Brian Stevenson, I think is his name, that I'd heard his name from my cousin. He's a pastor out in Texas that does some amazing things in his community and has just a heart for people and love them to death. And he and his wife, who's really my cousin, I call him my cousin too. She's really my cousin-in-law. But they both love people. But they were talking about this, and then I follow a guy named Shane Claiborne who went to an Eastern University up in Philly, and area, and evidently it's Brian Stevenson went to college there, and so he posted something about this. I went and saw this movie called Just Mercy. Have you guys seen it? I mean, what an eye opener, man. I mean, what an eye opener, right? I mean, you kind of know about this when you see some of these documentaries and see what these guys are going through, but that was, to me, a huge eye opener. And then the other one it got me thinking too about how the system, and Zarin, maybe you said it was rigged or it's set up or it's got something, and it's really, I think you said, a black man has to work 10 times harder, which is, it got me thinking about this system with Just Mercy when I saw that almost everywhere I live, including now, and I don't even have that many, I just moved to the beach not too long ago from Atlanta. And so it's not like I've had the same group. I didn't grow up there. So it's just 4 years or so there, but I still am probably 1 or 2 calls from a judge, or somebody in the system. I'm 1 or 2 degrees of separation. And some of that is because of this generational gap of maybe the people I know might know somebody. If I think about it, I could probably find somebody in my friends list that might know somebody in some sort of power that could give me a leverage if I needed it.
Right.
Not saying I'm a pretty law abiding guy, I think, but I know you guys are too. I mean, has how many judges does your mom and dad know, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think about that. I have a youth pastor that goes to the church that I go to here, and he put out a video, and he was saying that, like, he can only try to understand, but will never really understand what it is we go through because he wasn't raised to have those same fears. Mm-hmm. And I remember one of the things he said was that when he got pulled over, he wasn't worried about the bad things that were going to happen. He was more worried about if his parents knew somebody that knew somebody, how he was going to get out of it, And I think for me personally, when it comes to getting pulled over, I'm not even thinking about getting out of it. I'm thinking about getting away, like getting it over with, like, and it being safe, like my heart's beating. I think about when my sister got pulled over for the first time when she first started driving. She was bawling in tears before the cop even walked to her car. She was crying to the point where she came home after being pulled over. She was still crying because of how scared she was. Mm-hmm. And that's where I feel like the serious problem is. I mean, not to continue talking, but I remember when I called my mom when all this was first happening and just wanted to see what her insight was on it. And if, like, them burning down buildings and things was right or wrong, And she said that it's not necessarily right because it's not going to change too much by people burning buildings down, but that at this point, it's not about us getting equal rights and stuff for being black, but it's letting you know that if you do something wrong now, there's going to be consequences. So it's like, as black people, we're looking for the bare minimum, You
just want to be treated like a human. You just want to be treated like a human, right?
Yeah. But it's just the things like that with people that I love where it stands out when I see them hurt, Not even just my personal stuff, but my mom, how she talked about the fear that goes through her when I call her because I'm being pulled over. Or whenever there's been cases or incidents where I haven't done anything wrong, but if I'm out and I'm just in the wrong place at the wrong time, if she gets a call from somebody, not even just a cop, like the fear that runs through her because I could be in trouble, like from just being a kid. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think hurts me the most. Like when she told me that's what really resonated with me and hurt, because it's like, I didn't even realize this as a kid, the simple things that I do, how much it hurts and scares my mom.
We've got to find and look, you guys are young men that looking forward to, I know Hunter has a child, but we've got to find a way, as you guys continue to mature and develop your own family and develop your own kids, we've got to find a way so that your wife and you aren't having to go through what your parents, like you said, what your parents have had to go through. I mean, they certainly want, I mean, you know, I want to leave this world better for my children and my grandchildren as well. And that's why we've got to have these conversations. But I know you guys want it to be better for your grandkids and for your kids, certainly. And that's why it's so important to have this, you know. And when we were talking about this criminal justice system, it got me thinking as well about another movie I saw. I think it was on Apple TV. And I'm putting some of this out there because I know you guys, listen, you guys don't have to watch these movies. I think you're living it. So, but I thought they were really informative for me. And so if there's people that maybe are listening to this later, that was called The Banker on Apple TV, I think, put it out. Did you hear about this movie called The Banker? And it's a true story about these two black men that, you know, wanted to do a bank. And they couldn't do a bank because of the system that was set up. Black people couldn't have a bank. And of course, black people weren't allowed to go and get loans because white banks weren't loaning to black people. And so this is, I can't remember the time period, but so again, I'm going to fumble all over this, but let's call it the 40s and 50s, you know? And
I saw The Banker.
Did you see it? I mean, what an amazing movie about these two guys. Yeah, yeah.
So you seen the movie Detroit?
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that was good too.
Yeah, watch that one.
This Banker one talked about how when you go back and you look at how white people were able to get loans for homes, which are assets, which can be passed down generation and can create generational wealth for their family. But then whole groups and cultures, they weren't allowed to get loans. And so these guys actually started a bank, but they found a white guy to kind of be their straw man. It was their bank, but they said he's really the president and CEO because he went and got him a bank. And they started a bank, but then they got in trouble. They got found out. They both went to jail. And all that, but they started the bank mainly so that they could give loans to black people, and allow black people to have ownership and assets and build wealth. And some of those laws obviously have gotten better. And obviously, you know, there are, I think, places where you can get a loan as a black person, but I'm sure I don't know. I'm sure that's harder, even to this day for that. Have you still, your parents talked about it? One of you, who was saying, Angel, you said you own your home now. You're in a home right now. You've got one. So how was that process? Did you feel okay with it? Was it difficult?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think what Angel says is easy. And it's probably because you ain't been.
They made my moving very easy. You know, Zane came and helped. You know,
that's good.
Yeah, we came and helped you. But you know, I think there's been a lot of advancements for black people that also aren't as recognized during these times. Like, you know, we have a lot of rights and a lot of opportunities available to us because of people that came before us and sacrificed their lives, their blood, their sweat, their tears to have these opportunities available to us now. And I think that sometimes we see we'll see situations and we're like, man, like they're still trying to keep us down, look at us the same way. And yeah, you know, it's still prevalent, but there also is opportunity out there. And for us, we have to move a different way. We have to navigate two different worlds. And I think that's the important part. It's not the fact that like, oh, there's not enough loans available or it's hard to have good credit as a black man. It's just that as a black man, you have to be able to navigate two worlds or three worlds within yourself. You have to be able to walk down Wall Street in a suit and be a businessman, and then also be a black father, and then also be a black man in your community. But that's three different people inside of one person. And that's how you have to live every day, 365. You know,
a guy named Paul, you guys probably heard of him. He wrote more books of the Bible than anybody else, but I think he said that we should become all things to all people to win some. Someone was talking about salvation, but it kind of fits with what you're saying, right? If I've got to win, I've got to become it all.
Right.
Definitely. You've got to, like, I think that is, man. So I think that's really relevant in my life because I feel like I've had to mold myself into this person that can fit in everywhere, because whether it's right or wrong, I was raised knowing that I was going to have to learn how to fit in around white people to be successful. Not to use them, but to understand that they're the people that are mostly in high power. Like, they are people who own businesses that are hiring. And if you can't walk into a building and talk professional and look like you have it all together, then you're already out of the discussion. I mean, I think about the fact that my parents told me that the reason why they chose to name me after my father and not to name me the other names that they were wanting to name me is because they wanted me to not automatically be known as a black man when they first read my name. So, like, it's the small things like that that you grow up hearing. Like, my parents told me that at a young age. You know, there's plenty of other names that they wanted to name me, but they were like, this is a very universal name. And then you were talking about getting loans, and that kind of reminded me of something my father told me. So I remember I told you I have a white girlfriend. And I've recently been looking at moving into a different apartment. And my father had told me that I should take my girlfriend with me so that she could go in and talk to the people. Because I was explaining to him how I was having a hard time getting the people to call me back and take me serious when I'm looking for an apartment. And my dad said, well, why don't you take Cameron, who is my girlfriend, and let her go talk to them? And I remember telling my girlfriend that. I was like, my dad said that you should probably go talk to them because they may take you a little bit more serious. And I think those are the things right there that kind of hurt, you know, like,
for sure.
You hear something like that and you're like, man, are you really not taking me serious? Like, so I've been on this apartment journey for a while now, and there's a lot of places where I go and my girlfriend doesn't notice it, and sometimes she may think that I'm just seeing it, but I feel like as a black man, you automatically feel the vibe when you walk in somewhere if you unwanted.
And you can feel it as a white person too. You can feel that vibe from different people. Yeah.
So there's been times where me and her have walked into a place together, and she may ask like, "What's wrong?" And I may not even like elaborate on the situation, but I'm feeling uncomfortable because I feel like people are either staring at me because I'm with a white woman, or they're just staring at me because I am a black male and I'm the only one in the building. You know? Because I remember when me and her had a hard conversation, I asked her, do you notice when you're the only white person in a room? Like, do you feel uncomfortable? And she says that, and she told me that she noticed it, but she doesn't feel uncomfortable because she doesn't feel the hate as the same that I feel when I walk into a room and being the only black person. I feel like I have to tighten up. I feel like I have to be on my best behavior, on my P's and Q's, because I don't want to make a sudden movement. My mom would always tell me to fix my face when I go in somewhere because I'm not supposed to look upset. So, it's the things like that kind of.
Yeah, there was sorry, CJ. There was a teacher that y'all had at Community. I don't want to mention her name because I don't want to bring people into the conversation that, if we're going to put it out there online, unless they want to be known. I'm sure she probably wouldn't have a problem with it. But I read a comment of her, and I guess she's actually mixed after reading her post on Facebook. But she talked about the things she thinks as a mom of a child now and a mother of a child, that she, one of the issues was whenever she goes to a place, she mentioned that she wants to know, like, almost as if is she the only black lady there or black person there? That was something that I remember reading her put out there. So I'm paraphrasing, but do you guys, when you go there, you're kind of looking, is there anybody else that might fit in with me if you go into like
that was the first thing I did when I met Zarin. Right? At CCS. I was like, oh my God, you're going to be my best friend. We're both black, me, him, and Jolin. It's like we got to stick together.
Then CJ came along.
Yeah, we saw CJ.
Which, by the way, I've got to give mad props. I know y'all talked about CCS, and I'm sure there's things that they did wrong, but, look, you guys are all educated and really sharp dudes. And then I've also got to give mad props to your parents. I mean, y'all have – I'm hearing out of – you all have talked about your mothers and your fathers and different people that have, influenced your life and come in. But Hunter as well. I mean, you all have just really – got to give them mad props for raising some really incredible people. I just kind of moving towards one thing about kind of closing up maybe the criminal justice, and listen, we could stay on this all day, the inequality in the criminal justice system. But one of the things I thought is, it was in a conversation I was having with somebody, how we don't really have a debtor's prison. Like if you don't pay, we used to have a debtor's prison. So if you didn't pay a fine, you could actually go to jail if you owed money. But we got a lot. We have the bail issues that could be considered debtor's prison. Some of the bail bonds, if you can't bond out, we've got when people can't afford attorneys going to jail, and they can't. They're doing plea deals even when they didn't do anything because it's better for them. I watched a movie the other day called 13th. It was on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen it. Again, another great movie. 13th is what I think it was called. It was another amazing, talking about some of the injustice that goes on in the criminal justice system. So I encourage people to watch that. But one of the things that somebody quoted in that movie said that, the Selma Walk, they redid the Selma Walk, when Obama was president, and they walked across the bridge in Alabama. But one thing that wasn't pointed out during that is that 30% of blacks had lost their right to vote in Alabama at that point in time. But a lot of that's because when you jail people for infractions, especially when they get felony, especially when, again, you've got a group of people that maybe can't afford to find a good lawyer, don't have a systems that's set against them, so they just take a plea bargain even if they're not guilty. But then that's on their record, and then they don't have the right to vote. So you take away power. Mm-hmm. And so I would just encourage anybody to watch the 13th movie. But that really hit me when I saw that statement. I think there's the other thing in America that looking at population, the other thing that stuck out to me about that is 1 in 17 white people may experience jail, but 1 in 3 black people go to jail. On this screen right now, there's 4 of you. So you somehow were the unicorns, but I mean,
yeah, we made it out.
Hey, listen, I love each of you, and I know your people, but you got a lot of brothers and sisters that equally are just like you that experience that very well. I mean, do you have? I'm sure friends that have gone to jail that didn't do it or didn't do things or they had to serve some sort of sentence that they didn't have or shouldn't have to.
Yeah, so. I mean, as an athlete, I think that resonates a lot. Like, I've had athletes, like my teammates, that have been kicked off a team just because somebody said they did something that they didn't. Mm. There's been times where I've had to vouch to my coach, like, hey, don't suspend this guy. Like, I was with him, and I seen that he didn't touch her,
Same, bro.
Mm. And I've had it even happen to me. I know all of us have the same friend named Manny. And we were down in Georgia Southern one time. I was over, because this is when I went to Middle Georgia, and it was only about an hour away from Statesboro. Mm-hmm. And I'm just hanging out with my friend Manny, and he had 2 other friends that he asked to come down, who were both females they were white females. And they had been friends that he had grew up with.
I remember that.
And we all had went out, that night, just having a good time. Really was not even doing nothing wrong. Just, we all went out as a group. Everything was great as we went out. And then the girl that Manny had invited had got upset and wanted to go home. So Manny was going around trying to find everybody for us to go home because she wanted to. So long story short, we eventually get in the car and are on the way home, and she's extremely upset. And I don't know why she's upset, but I turn around and I'm trying to figure out what is wrong with her, and she starts yelling at me. Yelling at me, and it escalates to the point where she ends up calling me the N-word, continues to tell me to hit her. And then I don't raise my hand. Manny looks at me and he's like, don't say nothing. She's yelling at me. And she says, hit me, please hit me, because I want to call the police. So she already knew the system. And then after she realized that I was not going to give in to her trying to upset me and trying to make me angry, she said that she's going to call the police anyway and tell them that I hit her. So at this point, Manny tells me, hey, look, the police here are not, they're not going to take your side. They're not going to understand you. You need to leave. So that night, I had to pack my bag and get in my car and go back to school, go back where I came from.
Yeah.
So I've had countless instances where things have happened, and this is coming from a guy that when I meet somebody new that doesn't know me, they tell me that I talk white because I talk educated. And I think Zarin, all of us have had that experience, and that bothers me a lot. That
I understand.
Because I sound educated and because I try to carry myself the right way, I'm classified as white.
Yeah, they say you're the whitest black person they know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that so many times about Zarin and CJ in school. So many times. I really did.
I've come to really understand why people really think like that, because they watch social media, they watch too many movies, and they listen to too much music, and they expect us to act a certain way. So when they do meet one like us who are educated and know speak proper when we need to, they're like, oh, are you from up north? Are you from California? Are you from up north? You sound like you have a good education. And it's like, no, I'm from Georgia, been here my whole life. This is just who I am. And it's like, I see what CJ's meaning. Like, it hurts a little bit, because it's like, why does a black man have to be associated with not being able to speak proper, or not being able to be educated, or be able to speak concise, clear words,
It's really crazy. You said something about you have to be able to walk Wall Street. You have to be able to be a black father, and then you have to be a black man in your community. I mean, do you ever feel the pressure of, because I know even as I'm trying to learn, I'm going to make some mistakes in trying to learn, but we've all got to evolve. I've got to get better. We've all got to get better, and we've got to have these tough conversations. But do you find in your community, do you find pressure to, are you protesting enough? Are you not protesting the right way? Or then do you find, and then, you're saying it, but then I have to act a certain way to the white kind of group. So do you find sometimes where you, I'm just trying to live, and because you said you have to navigate all these different people?
So I love this question.
I get it all the time. Yeah.
So I've been to three different schools, and I've just finished up at Tuskegee. It's Tuskegee University in Tuskegee, Alabama, HBCU.
But you fly planes, by the way, which is amazing to me. You go in the air and control yourself in the air doing this. So yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you. But I love that, because I've not only feel I'm in Tuskegee is about 95% black, the population, but I feel in this community, my place, I know where my place is, even in the Black community. Like, we always think, kind of like trying to play both sides of the table, where you have to be presentable to corporate America, you have to be presentable to white communities, you have to be presentable even in Black communities. But it's not about, can I fit in to this community? It's about, can I be myself unapologetically no matter where I am? And I feel like I never understood what that meant until I came to Tuskegee. I had to come to a Black community to understand what that felt like, because I didn't know what it felt like until I came here. And now I feel 100%. I feel 100% more confident now that I can go into any community and unapologetically be myself and not care what people think of me, whether they see me as a Black man, whether they see me as a military officer, or whether they see me as a pilot. They can see what they want to see, but I know who I am. So when I'm navigating in these different worlds that we have to do in life as a Black man, we know that we can be our true selves in those communities.
It's crazy to hear you talk about gaining confidence to be who you are, because you were the starting quarterback for your high school team that went and won several state championships, if I'm correct. And a lot of you actually played on that team. Several of you on this Zoom call has played on that team and won championship. So your confidence level, to me, I always felt like was always super high. But again, this is part of this conversation and trying to understand what you've gone through and what you all had to go through, and how long it's taken you to have to find that confidence that you can just be who you want to be.
Man, that's
powerful.
I actually recently had that conversation too. I found it a lot just from moving places, like going to different schools, coming to areas that people didn't know me. And in order to feel accepted or to feel comfortable, I would have to kind of like lay out my resume to people in a way. So for me, I felt more like approved when I would meet somebody and I tell them right off the bat that I'm an aerospace student, that's my major. I felt like that made them look at me as a better person. Or telling them that I'm an athlete. But there was a lot of times where I've met with my friends, whether we are like at the store or anywhere, and I would get upset at them for automatically saying that we're athletes, because I don't want that connotation that comes with that of us being Black athletes. I feel like sometimes a lot of people, and especially the college community, are scared of us as being American athletes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, people get that persona like athletes can do whatever they want,
Right.
Even in the small college that I went to, our coach would say all the time, nothing good happens after 10, because he knows, people have these personas of athletes. They'll do whatever they can to make you look bad.
Angel, if you I know when Angel came to Tuskegee one time for homecoming, and if you don't know about HBCUs, homecoming is a big deal. It's like big.
Now, when you say HBCUs, by the way, I think I know. I don't know the exact acronym, but you're talking about Black college and universities, right? So so explain what HBCU is.
Historically Black colleges. It's
It's
all universities that there's a number of them all over the U.S.
Right.
But
right.
Black college is originally founded for Blacks and African Americans back when back
get the segregation.
Segregation times when blacks would apply to regular universities or bigger colleges and couldn't get in because they were black. So many of the HBCUs were created so that blacks could go and get an education. And we have these things every year called homecoming. Everybody's got a homecoming, but nobody does it like Tuskegee. But Angel, came down one year and he said something so real.
We talking about Angel here now. Come on.
Angel he'll hit you with those side notes where like you hear it and it doesn't just like hit you and stay with you. It like hits you and then it just stays in your head.
Yeah.
You start seeing my world.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're walking down the hill and I mean it's just football games going on, crowds, everybody's cheering, everybody's having a good time. And it's our community. It's Tuskegee. Mm-hmm. And Angel is like, wow. He's like, wow, this is how white people feel in America. And when he said that, it hit me, but it didn't hit me until like maybe like a week or like something later. And I mean, when it hit me, it was like when it hit me, like I felt how I felt at the game, like days or like a week later, because like when I actually understood what he was saying, it was like, wow, like we felt safe. We felt free.
You can let your guard down.
Yeah, it was like I could, if I was a grown-er, older, was married and had kids and stuff, I could let them be free and run around and go play with other kids and do whatever they wanted to do and not be worried about if there's a cop around the corner or if somebody's looking at them wrong or looking at their hair and, just whatever it was. It was just that we felt safe. And I think that's a lot of how a lot of people are trying to understand that they feel like that in America, but Black people don't.
Yeah, no, Oh, wow.
Something that throws me off, coaching up here, when I coached up here, it's mainly a white community, a couple Black kids on the team. We went into playoffs and we had to play a mainly Black team, and they get scared when they see Black people on the field. Like, it just blows me. Like, Darren, CJ, when you played football and you saw white people, like, you're like, oh my God, like, I'm scared. Like, they're gonna be so good, You don't get that feeling, but when I was coaching these kids, they got scared. It blows me away that, in some communities, like, it's like that. Like, they see Black people like, oh my God, like, they're gonna be really good. They just get that title almost,
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you can get into stereotypes sometimes, I guess, that way. And that Black people are always going to be good athletes or this sport or that sport, but really we're human beings, and we've got to you got to work really hard. And I think Tim Tebow used to say something like what does he used to say? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Yep.
I think was a statement, and that can be universal on the field for really anybody, right? You just got to work hard and persevere. But we get this image, this color image, and this barrier. That's an interesting point too. How do you guys feel that the church has done? I mean, we obviously met at a youth camp at a particular church, and which I think was somewhat diverse. I mean, maybe similar to what our country numbers are. I mean, I don't actually feel like they do a good job in diversity there. But again, that's maybe my perspective. But how do you feel like the church in general, so let's just blanket the church, not a church, the church in general, is doing with diversity?
I think it just depends on the area, honestly. Like in Georgia, I mean, I thought it was pretty diverse, like CCS or Eagles Landing. I went to Eagles Landing when I was down there. And it was pretty diverse, but up here in Kentucky, we struggled to find a church. Just it didn't meet what we wanted. It's a lot different.
Honey, you bring up a good point. Yeah, you bring up a good point, because we came from the same place, and I moved to an area that's diverse or not diverse, and I've had a hard time finding it. I've started. We as a family watch North Point online.
Yeah, we watch Eagles Landing.
Yeah, there you go. We watch North Point online and get our worship on that way.
Yeah.
And I think even like CCS did a good job with diversifying and definitely making people feel welcome. I feel like now it is tough. It is tough because I even go to church online. I attend a transformation church online. I'm sure y'all probably heard of them. But you just want to find a welcoming church family and community that allows you, number one, it just allows you to be yourself and not feel judged. Yeah. And I think a lot of churches out there do a good job of doing that and making, their congregation feel welcome and making them feel at home. But there's still some out there that, they're really tight on their old ways. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's the community that you're in and that's how y'all work, that's cool, but that's not something I want to be a part of. I want to be a part of a church.
And I mean, that can be cool if that's the community that you're isolated in, but then you feel like the whole world revolves around your viewpoints, right? I mean, right? So
you want to know one way.
Yeah. So I might challenge you there. I mean, some ways, if this country is going to grow, we need good church leaders that step up, even in communities that it's hard to.
Right.
And I know that's going to be difficult.
I feel in the church, it's kind of a bigger picture. So in the church, what revolves around Black Lives Matter pretty much revolves around everything when it comes to the church. It's about seeing everybody as equal and that everybody is of God and that everybody is innocent and just a human. So what I mean by that is, just like you go to some churches and because you have tattoos or you dress or look a certain type of way, you may not feel as welcome. And I think that that's just something that a lot of churches do good and that also some need to do better. It's just making you feel welcome when you're there, regardless of if you're white, black, tall, or short, like just feeling welcome and not shaming or making people feel bad for whether the way they look or the things that they've done. That hits me hard because I had one of my best friends recently convert to being Muslim because he said that he was once a Christian and said that he didn't understand why he felt as if when he was a Christian, because he had did things that were wrong before, that he wasn't going to be in heaven because they pretty much shunned him for that in the church. And so now I've been working because I didn't know that he was going through this process and I blame myself for it. But to know that no matter how you look, if you have tattoos, how you dress, you are still forgiven and God will forgive you, that God loves you no matter what. So I think that that's really powerful.
Preach, baby, preach.
I didn't notice that. I didn't really notice that until I kind of came out of my bubble of where I lived from CCS and came to Tennessee, which is a little bit of a different area when it comes to trying to find a church. I think that churches should work on trying to be more diverse and connecting to every community.
Agreed.
Because at the end of the day, we all have the same goal of just trying to bring everybody to Christ. So by making your congregation diverse, you welcome more people.
Sure.
I have personally walked into churches and seen that I was the only Black person there and either turned around, went to another church, or said, I'm not coming here no more because I didn't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only way that you're going to bring black people into your church is by engaging black people, right? Or vice versa. That's the only way, is to say, I've got to get into the muck. And that's where the hard part happens. And Andy Stanley talks about that a lot. And the hard part, the messy middle, right? I mean, we all stay on the boundaries, but it's when it all comes together and it's hard, when you're going to do life with people, it is going to be hard. And people might get upset and have their feelings hurt, or like I might say something wrong or offend somebody. That's never my intention. But if we can start with love and say we're going to get in the middle and work it, then that's how we can kind of move it forward. I have a friend of mine on social media. I've actually never met this guy. I think there was somebody else that knew I was doing that church in Atlanta, and they knew this guy was doing a church. He was a black guy, and he got married. So another black lady, both of them are pastors of this church, and I think it's I feel like I'm not exactly sure where it's at, because I don't live in Georgia anymore, but I think it's kind of in the College Park area for some reason. I'm not exactly sure where it's at. But he talks a lot about church hurt, which I think, by the way, is universal. And I think, I don't know him personally, but I actually believe if we had a conversation, the things he posts, I think he would say church hurt's universal for all people. I think people have been discriminated, but I think it's big probably in the black community, even more so, that there's a big thing about church hurt and getting through that church hurt and that discrimination that happens, that idea that I'm going to judge you, versus the fact what we know and what you just said, that Jesus actually loves us, and really, really loves us. I read something the other day, say Galatians, it was in Galatians 6:2, and it talked about what we all got to do to kind of move this thing forward, especially as I think all of us, but I think even as me as a white father, Hunter as a young white father, especially as it, in Galatians in 6:2, it says, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will feel the law of Christ. That's why I think this is so important for us to have these conversations and to hear your voice, and for me to understand, and hopefully others to understand what this is about. Because like we said, this isn't about that you think you're better. You just want to be treated as human. And
you want to matter.
You want to matter. You just want to matter. And if we're going to be Christians, like Galatians says, carry each other's burdens. And I need to carry your burden. Hunter and I need to carry your burdens. And in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. And, I just want you guys to know I love you. And, I grew up in America, this country, believing in, even not that far too long ago, just that this opportunity in this country, and there's a lot of opportunity in this country, and that I've grown up with this belief that it's the best country in the world. There's a black eye on it that I've kind of not even seen for a long time, and there's a black eye on it. And you could say I've been blind to it, even though I've seen it, but I didn't live it, and I didn't talk about it, and we didn't get deep into it. But there's a black eye on it, and I'm still hopeful. I mean, do you guys still feel like? Do you feel that way? Do you feel that way, that this country still, there's hope and there's a path forward?
I feel like I'm not trying to make any disclaimers for like my future or anything, but I love America, and I say that meaning that I'm African American, but at the end of the day, I'm American. My dad's from America, my grandfather's from America, and his father's from America. And at the end of the day, these are the lands that our fathers walked and worked and poured their blood, sweat, and tears to create a future for us. So for me to disassociate with this land means for me to disassociate where I come from as well, And I think that in the times that we're going through right now, all we can do is show love to one another and just not think that we're better than one another, no matter our status, no matter where we are in life, no matter our position. not think that we're better than one another, but hope better for that person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that. I had this conversation with my roommates the other night that, you know, there's innocent people, there's innocent men and women in jail right now. Mm-hmm. And some may not get out before their time, some may. And we're not saying that, you know, twist the turn of events, that we're better for them, that they didn't see the opportunities that, you know, they could have made better for their lives. We're not saying that we're better than them, but that we wish better for them. And I think to get to that point, we can only turn to Christ for that. We can only turn to loving one another, and exactly what you're saying. Put one another's brothers' burdens on our backs and carry that with them. Just stand with us, not against us, you know. And I'm not speaking to you guys or anything like that, but I'm just saying, a message for America: just stand with us and ride with us and understand what we want and what our future and everything that America has done. Just open their eyes just to see that, hey, we're not just speaking, just saying this like, hey, Black Lives Matter. It's like, no, just listen to what we're saying, and you can see it. It's all being filmed, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Just to love one another and understand where we're coming from. You know.
Amen. That's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think there's still hope.
Yeah, with that question, like, I get scared, you know, because of this time period that we're in, you know, and I see the positive things of people coming together. But it worries me in a way that I'm scared to get my hopes up that
will it last?
Yeah, it does worry me that, like, it only will last. It is something that will just pass and blow over. Yeah. So, like, you know, I continue to pray that the things and the events stick to people, that they will one day teach their kids, you know, that this is an event that happened in life. But at the end of the day, I feel like I can only hope, because it's like this has been going on for so long. Like, for all of us, we were from before we knew a lot of what the world was, we knew that the world had racism. That was one of the first things as a young Black child you learn. So to now be, for me, 24 years old, and think that racism is going to change now, while that would be what I would want more than anything in this world, it's scary to get my hopes up and then they fall, you know?
Mm. Right. It's a tough question.
I just want to start off with a story of when all this had started and the rioting and everything. I had a buddy post, is this protesting or is this stealing? And some girl commented on it. She's African American. She commented on it. She said, yeah, let's like start burning down the stuff they love, like tennis lawns and golf courses and tennis courts. And that just ate at me so bad, because I messaged back. I was like, you know, to me, this doesn't make any sense, because, you know, the top golfer in the world, he's a Black guy. The top tennis athlete in the world, she's a Black woman. Like, you're not going to tear down the things that we love. You're going to tear down things everybody loves. And we kept going back and forth on the post, and the buddy that initially started the post messaged me. He's like, hey, man, I know your heart's pure. You know, don't let them get to you. And I felt like at the time, like, you know, I got to stand up. Like, I can't just let them think that every white person is like this, you know. And my wife, she's totally against, like, me getting into the whole argument thing, and you know, and I had to educate her, like, you know, it's not even about me. It's like, you know, she grew up her whole life. Before college, she only knew one Black person, and that just blew my mind. because, you know, she does not know the life that they go through, you know, the struggles they go through. And I really had to educate her so she could feel my love for the Black community, you know. I love the Black community, been around my whole life, been around it all through college. And then to come through to a small town like Columbia where it's, you know, you got 5 or 6 white people, you know, it's tough. And then you see those 5 or 6 white people out there riding on the well, not riding, but protesting on the streets of Columbia. You know, it brings joy to me. To where if you go look at my wife's page now, she just posted about it. She took pictures of all of them. She posted about it. You know, so it's a, you know, full circle, you know, kind of thing. Like she had no idea about it. And you educate her, and now she feels that love too, almost, you know.
Well, that's right. So educating it, having these conversations, getting into the middle of it. I applaud you for having that conversation, Hunter, because you know, it's tough. But that's what we're going to have to do. I mean, we got and CJ, that hope, getting your hope up. I hope maybe we can re-energize each other, right? And I can carry your burden a little bit more and tell you that, you know, I was at a protest the other day that came through where I was, and saw a sign said, silence is violence. And so I know I've got to speak up more, and I've got to address it when I see it. And like Andy's example of, you know, I'm anti-bullying. So if I walk down the street and I see somebody beating up a kid, I'm not going to be non-bullying and say, well, I don't believe in bullying, but they can do what they want to do, right? I got to be anti-racist. And so when I hear that pop up in the community, I need to have a voice. And listen, I think we can do it. We can try to be tactful. We can try to do it gracefully, which, by the way, I think you guys, the stories you're telling me you've gone through and what you've dealt with and the racism you've had to go through, what grace you've handled it with. What grace you've handled it with. And I know each and every one of you, and I love y'all, and I'm thankful for you, and I'm thankful for this conversation. You know, this didn't start long ago, and so I wanted to read off some names. I found this, but because I think it's important. And I won't say every name right, but it's been going on for a while. I mean, you've got Eric Gardner, John Crawford III, Michael Brown, Ezeal Ford, Deontay Parker, Michelle Causo, Laquan McDonald, Tanisha Anderson, Akia Gurley, Tamir Rice, Romaine Breeson, Jermaine Reed, George Mann, Matthew Hijabe, Frank Smart, Natasha McKenna, Tony Robinson, Anthony Hill, Maya Hall, Philip White, Eric Harris, Walter Scott, William Chapman, Alexa Christian, Brendan Glenn, Victor Manuel LaRosa, Jonathan Sanders, Freddie Blue, Joseph Mann, Salvador Ellswood, Sandra Bland, Albert Joseph Davis, Darius Stewart, Billy Ray Davis, Samuel DeBose, Michael Sabby, Brian Keith Day, Christian Taylor, Troy Robinson, Shannon Farrow Manley, Felix Kumi, Keith Harrison McLeod, Junior Prosper, Lamontez Jones, Patterson Brown, Dominique Hutchinson, Anthony Ashford, Alonzo Smith, Tyree Crawford, India Kager, Levante Biggs, Michelle Lee Marshall, Jameer Clark, Richardson Perkins, Nathaniel Harris Pickett, Benny Lee Tigner, Miguel Espinal, Michael Noel, Kevin Matthews, Betty Jones, Quintinio Legrier, Keith Childress Jr., Janet Wilson, Randy Nelson, Atrani Scott, Wendell Celestine, David Joseph, Callan Rockymore, Deshaun Perkins, Christopher Davis, Marco Lau, Peter Gaines, Tori Robinson, Darius Robinson, Kevin Hicks, Mary Trulio, DeMarcus Samir, Willie Tillman, Terrell Thomas, Seville Smith, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Terrence Crutcher, Paul O'Neill, Alteria Woods, Jordan Edwards, Aaron Bailey, Ronell Foster, Stefan Clark, Antoine Rose II, Bothing Jean, Pamela Turner, Dominique Clayton, Antania Jefferson, Christopher Whitfield, Christopher McCorvey, Eric Reason, Tony McDade, Michael Lorenzo Dean, Brianna Taylor, George Floyd, and Maud Aubrey. Let's pray, guys. Father, we love you. Heal our land. Help us, give us strength to stand with what's right. Help us to carry each other's burden. Help us to listen more. Help us to want to see the other side. Help us, Lord. Help us to make sure that Black Lives Matter. We love you. We know you love us. Give us strength. I love all these guys here. I pray for them. I pray for their family. I pray for their safety. In your name we pray. Amen. I love you guys, and y'all mean the world to me. I don't really have a ton more questions, so I'm glad to hear any more points on this. I know we've covered a lot of topics, and there's probably 30 more we can cover. I want you to know that I'm always there for you. What's crazy is that I've known you guys for a long time. None of you have ever asked me for any money, so that's better than a lot of people in my life.
It's not too late.
It's not too late, right? Listen. I'm always there for you. I'm down on the coast. You've got a room at my home anytime, all the time. If you're ever in need, please know that I've got your back, and you can call me. You know how to get a hold of me. What's that?
Said, can I come to the beach?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Class down there.
Absolutely. Y'all come on down anytime. Absolutely. You know that.
My wife is just saying she wanted to meet you.
Well, she needs to come on down. Y'all come on down. Bring that baby. We'd love to see it. We'd love to see your family. And, we'll you have the reign of it. Listen, you can bring your friends, whatever, and we can hang. I know this old guy ain't that cool, so you can hang without me and hang with me, whatever you want to do. I don't want to pull your style down.
I
just want to be as cool as y'all.
I remember I was like, this is the coolest older dude I've ever met when we were Daytona.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you. My children do not feel that way. So
all that
helps
all
my
the
ego.
extra fitting. Let's go for a run.
Let's do it.
I know, on the beach, bro.
On the beach. Hey, those were good workouts back then. That was a good workout.
Yeah, I guess.
It's like, how do you have this much energy?
Oh, man. But listen, I enjoyed talking to you and honestly just catching up with y'all. You guys are all doing amazing things, each and every one of you. And I know Fred the call, So I imagine you guys are feeling that. You feel that pressure too. So
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine, like, for Fred and a lot of us out there, who, of course, it's different because, I'm only in a relationship and I'm not married yet, but I feel like it's a lot of hard talks you have to have with your significant other that's of another race too, because a lot of times, in our small circle of, boyfriend and girlfriend or husband and wife, we don't have we don't look at either of the other one any different,
Mm-hmm.
So when we have to explain to each other our sides, that's when you really see the strength of a relationship to understand, and I feel like I've had to do that too. Like, I've had to understand where my girlfriend's coming from, and I've had to explain to her so she can understand where I'm coming from. And I feel that just like how you can do that in a relationship, you can do that with your friends and with your family, because that's all it takes. And once you have those, and if you have a love for each other, then you understand and you respect where that person's coming from. Yeah. And if we just did more of that out in the world and just had love for each other, then, you know, we wouldn't be where we are right now.
Yeah. I had a question for you, CJ. When you brought up the whole point about your dad, said you should get her to do it for you, the whole apartment thing, was she oblivious to the reason why?
No, I don't believe that she was oblivious to why, but I feel that she sometimes doesn't, you know, think the way that I think about it because she doesn't experience it, you know, unless she's with me somewhere, you know. But she's the type that, you know, she's had nothing but African-American friends as well. So luckily she didn't, you know, not know anything coming into this whole situation of what's going on in life. Like, she's experienced it, you know, and I bet she's a lot like you, Hunter, like, because she only hung out with mostly black people. Yeah. She saw it from the other lens, and, you know, like, she's explained situations to me about how, you know, she knows that it's not right, you know, and it's hard for everybody, I think, honestly.
Yeah. And there's times where you look down upon or hanging around the black community. And I see it more up here. I brought one of my closest friends to my girlfriend's gathering. Well, girlfriend at the time, my wife now, but brought it to her gathering, and it did not go over well. Some of them didn't talk to me for a while after that. So it definitely happens both ways. I mean, it's wild.
Yeah.
I believe you see it a lot in Kentucky.
It's like the college itself, Lindsey Wilson. It's a really diverse college. Like, I love Lindsey Wilson, but it's surrounded by an all-white community, which makes it really hard for you to do anything around here, because you got a whole diverse college, and then everything around it is a white community. So you got to watch your P's and Q's on what you can do, like what my friends could do, because you step one foot outside of that college zone into the community, and, you know, they almost out to get you. So it's a lot different up here in Kentucky. And, you know, my first year up here, it was a big culture shock for me. I almost quit several times, coming from somewhere like Atlanta, Jonesboro, to Columbia. It was a culture shock for sure.
And again, just so when we talk about this, again, just so I know the people in Kentucky are probably great people, but there are more isolated events. When you're not around anybody, the bad can come out a little quicker. Yeah. When you don't have diversity, that it goes unchecked. The people that don't have the right thoughts or do have the racist thoughts, they can become louder. You know, sometimes I feel like even in our Christian faith, we talk about the church. Sometimes I feel like the worst in our Christian faith can be the loudest in our Christian faith sometimes. You know, you see the people that riot, the soldiers that come home, you know, there used to be at Westboro Baptist Church, and they, you know, they're always on the news. So some of the worst people that are in the church are the loudest people that are in the church. And so we've got to find a way, though, that how do we get, because there's enough of us that love each other. And that's what I'm hearing today, right? That's kind of the takeaway. How do we make the good people become anti-racist and carry each other's burdens and have a voice, like say it, stand up for it.
I think what you had said earlier about the silence thing is
silence is violence. Yeah.
Silence is violence. You know, a lot of people may not feel like they can speak out because they're white, you know, or that as long as they know that they're not racist, they don't have to do anything.
Right.
And I thought it was a great example of how you said that you're not for bullying, so you're anti-bullying. So if you just saw somebody being bullied, you're not going to just turn the other way, but you're going to go and do something about it, you know?
Right.
And I think that's kind of how it has to be now, you know, and until we start engaging in those conversations and engaging with other people, we're never going to know. Like, you don't know something until you try. So you can't judge a book by its cover until you try, you know? And I've had that happen with me plenty of times. I know Zarin, I know all of us have had that, to where somebody has came to talk to us and was shocked by how we were, because they perceived us a certain way before they met us.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that, especially for the church, when it goes to reaching out towards the Black community, that if they just talk to them, you know, if they go out, you know, and have just type of certain events and just discuss and have conversations, that can go such a long way. Like, for me, I know when somebody comes out of their way to talk to me, whether it's about God or just how I'm doing, that automatically gives me some type of respect for that person, regardless of who they are. And as a church, if you do that, you know, in a Black community, you're going to receive respect from some people.
Yeah. And in large ways, the church needs to lead on this, and hard, right? I mean, we need to lead on it, and we need to lead on it hard. You know, because Zarin, you said that too. You said that really Christ is the only way. And so the church has to take the leadership on this. And I've been proud. I've seen some of my brothers and sisters in Christ that have stepped up and that are leading and doing some things. And so I'm proud of those. But we got to keep engaging more and more, because the church has got to lead the way on this.
And I feel like, I don't want to misquote the Bible because I don't like doing that, but I feel like a lot of stuff that's just going on in the world right now, it's supposed to happen, and this is God trying to call his children back to him. Like, he's trying to get our hearts to come back to him, and that's the only answer. The only answer out of everything that we're dealing with right now is to love one another and return back to our Father. It's the only way.
Good thought. Good thought. Listen, guys, I don't have anything else. We've been on this call for a couple hours now. I'll have to do some editing and break out some of our laughter and stuff and chill it down a little bit. Again, I'm going to send you the full length. You can kind of watch how you want. JoJo, I know you're the strong, silent type, so you know, yeah, I know, but that's you. I do know that's who you are. But you know, I like you. Angel pull in a good comment. Every once in a while throws that sideways comment, you know. He gets in a good one. But no, I appreciate all of you being here. And again, I can't say enough. I'm super proud of all of you. I mean, every one of you. I do stalk your profile. So, Hunter, I respect the fact that you've gotten off of social media, but then you just got to start texting me some photos of your family every once in a while.
I will. I didn't get your number.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I will send y'all a message with all my digits and stuff. And then, because I know y'all keep changing phones and junk. My digits hadn't changed, by the way. So
keep it old school.
It's the same number. I'm just saying. So it ain't me. But I stalk y'all hard though, and I love when I see it. Angel, I want to see your face sometimes on the Insta page too, man. I like seeing what you're doing.
Well, the thing is, I don't post.
I hear you, man.
It causes a lot of attention.
But listen, my number's there. I'm gonna give you my digits. Listen. I'm gonna give you my digits. But I want you know, when y'all need something or want something or need advice or need something, just know I'm in your corner. Just continue to know I'm in your corner. Each and every one of you. I am so proud of who you guys continue to become and the men you've become. And I can't tell you how many people I tell the story of these young brothers of mine that I met at Daytona Beach in some really, you know, shitty hotel. So, I mean,
it's funny because I thought it was a nice hotel. That's what's so funny. I was like, hey.
Certainly not anymore. Certainly not anymore, right? Certainly not anymore.
CJ.
When I live in lavish,
Me and CJ, we went to the store and we got some bread, some butter bread. We were making sandwiches.
Y'all did.
I actually remember
good hotel.
Those were the good days, man. I just remember that, and I think I still have that video, CJ. I won't put it on here, but I might send you that video, that slingshot video. That was the best. The slingshot video was the best. You gotta show it to your girlfriend. I'm gonna send you that slingshot video. I won't post it online, but I'll send it to you.
Oh man, sadly she's already seen it, and I told her to never speak of it again.
Did they play that in front of the whole school?
Oh
Did they play it in front of the whole school?
I think so.
That was probably the one time where I was in church and I was sweating because I was so embarrassed.
That was the best. And there's a whole website, by the way. Like if you've ever, you guys, I'll get into that world where you'll watch a video and it's got another video and another video. You go down this rabbit hole. I know you guys have all done that, so you can shake your head no, but I know you've done it, right? And they get into the ones that got the slingshot videos online where they're putting them up there now, and they are hilarious. They're still funny today. But every time I see one of those, I think about you, CJ. So that was good. So.
Don't forget about Fred either.
Oh, Fred was pretty good too. Fred was pretty solid too. But look, and I want y'all to know too, I pray for you guys often, especially right now. I mean, like I said earlier, when the Ahmaud Arbery thing came up, I was going to write something, and I started out writing something about our time together. I just felt it wouldn't be good because it's from me, and I wanted your voice. And so I appreciate your willingness to be here today. But I've been praying for y'all a lot lately because when that happened, I thought of you. That's who I saw. I thought of you.
So just remember, though, that you as being a white male, I feel that your voice is very strong too. Especially as far as what's going on for us. For me, it's expected for me to hear Black people speak out. But whenever I hear a white person speak out about it, that speaks levels to me. And I think that is when I see that and have hope that there is change, is when I see people that haven't obviously lived the same type life that I have lived, but can put themselves somewhat in my shoes and relate to the struggle that I have gone through. So I don't feel that you should ever be worried to speak out on the fact of what's happening, because we need more white people to speak out. We need more white people to show that this is wrong for everybody to agree.
That's strong. CJ, that is strong, brother. That is really strong. Honestly, I think we leave it there. That's strong. That's a strong statement, CJ. Listen, let's do this again, boys. I'm going to send you my digits. I love you.
Love you too.
Love you, Becky.
Now stay strong.
Yes, sir.
Okay.